One of the key sectors of Russian military modernization is its tank fleet, which still includes many unmodernized T-72B and T-80U tanks. In order to close the tank quality gap with NATO, Russia opted to upgrade the T-72B to the T-72B3 standard, a modernization that yielded a modern tank comparable to the T-90 at a fraction of the cost of buying a new T-90. The T-72B3 tank, which entered service in 2011 at the rate of about 200 a year, and which became widely known thanks to the annual tank biathlon competitions, was intended to be a stopgap measure until the T-14 of the Armata family became operational. According to statements by the Uralvagonzavod, Russian procurement plans entailed the purchase of 2,000 T-14 MBTs. These plans appear to have been modified due to several factors which appeared in the last 2 years. The first was the crisis in Ukraine and the heightened state of conflict with NATO. The crisis raised the need for a truly modern MBT comparable to NATO's tanks to become operational as quickly as possible. While the T-72B3 can be fairly described as a modern tank, it is still inferior in some respects to the latest NATO Leopard 2A6 and M1A2 Abrams tanks. Secondly, the basic T-90 design was also rapidly becoming dated, which reduced its international competitiveness, as evidenced by the success of Ukraine's Aplot tank in the 2011 competition in Thailand, where it won over the T-90. While the T-90 has enjoyed considerable export success, including major contracts with India and Algeria, it is now facing the prospect of being eclipsed by more recent designs from China and even Ukraine. Third, even though Ukraine proved unable to fulfill the Thailand contract in a timely manner, producing only 5 tanks a year in 2014 and 2015, the Russian leadership has to consider the worst-case scenario of Ukraine ramping up a plot production for domestic use with NATO's assistance. Fourth, Russia's economic crisis, caused mainly by the rapid drop of oil prices, means that the ambitious military modernization plans face the need of being as cost-effective as possible. Fifth, the T-14 is a radical design featuring many revolutionary technologies. It is a technologically risky project featuring many as yet unproven technologies, with the possibility of developmental delays. Since its design is very different from earlier Russian tank designs, its introduction would also require considerable changes to the training doctrine, as tank crews trained to use Russia's current tanks would be ill-prepared to use the T-14. As a result, it would be unlikely that Russia could field a sizable and fully operational T-14 force before 2020 at the earliest. The change to Russian procurement plans induced by these factors became apparent in the summer of 2015, when the Russian MOD announced its T-90 fleet would be modernized to the T-90AM variant. This version of the T-90, known by its export designation of T-90SM, was developed in recent years, apparently in response to the T-90's aging and the emergence of viable Chinese and Ukrainian competitors, and was not intended for adoption by the Russian military. However, the need for a quicker and less expensive alternative that would fill the gap until the T-14 became available compelled the Russian MOD to take a second look at the T-90AM, which has the advantage of using already existing T-90 hulls, is a mature project with few developmental risks, and whose familiar layout means Russian tank crews can readily transition to the new design. At least one T-90AM with the 2A82 125mm tank gun developed for the T-14 is undergoing tests at Nizhny Tagil, and upgraded vehicles could be delivered to Russian units as early as 2016 if the Russian MOD desires it. Therefore, by 2025, Russia's tank fleet is likely to consist of about 1,000 T-72B3 tanks, 400 or so T-90AM, and about 500 T-14s, with their numbers steadily increasing. This force would have both qualitative and numerical superiority over any conceivable combination of Russia's opponents at that time.
We're not just a junkyard. The stuff does not come out here and just park and sit and rust and deteriorate.
Don Olson is in the business of recycling.
Combat vehicles, tanks, armor personnel carriers, trailers, trucks, fuel tankers, water tankers, heavy construction equipment, bulldozers, it's light sets, it's Gators, it's ATVs.
This is the Sierra Army Depot. It is a 36,000-acre patch of land in Herlong, California. And it is where the military and the Army stores their equipment and actually sends it out so that it doesn't have just one life, but two, pinching every penny and every dollar so that taxpayer money isn't wasted after the war is finally over.
This stuff has been used once, and we bring that value back by having it being reused again.
Sierra is America's largest repository of military equipment returning from war. 26,000 vehicles and over $1 billion worth of clothing have been shipped here on planes, trucks, and trains. If it can still shoot, roll, or otherwise function, Don and his team take it into inventory, fix it up, and ship it right back out to troops. And we're not just talking about big-ticket items.
So you can see the workers here that are actually processing the material. They're opening the boxes to see if what's inside. It's an engine starter, I don't know, hundreds of dollars for a big truck. There's cables, there's filter systems, there's a steering wheel. It's not sexy stuff. But if we did not do this, the Army would be buying all of this again. And they're not having to do that now.
How many different types of things, tidbits, are we talking about here?
Millions. Literally anything that's in the Army supply system we could receive here. Anything.
So it's kind of like a big Home Depot where they can just go to aisle C4.
Yeah, it kind of is.
In an age where the military's belt is tightening through sequestration, drawdowns, and troop cuts, anyone who can save the Pentagon a penny is quite an asset. One stark example, armor used in soldiers' vests.
Previously, we would throw these away, and the Army would buy a new one, about $500. And we got with the manufacturer, and we said, look, can we do something to this to make it usable again for the soldier at a cost savings to the Army? So we now have a process we've identified where we can fix all of these little deficiencies that are on the end.
And the process is simple.
Heat the area up, she'll apply the tape on there, and seal it back on. It's permanently sealed, and it's just like it was manufactured brand new at the factory.
The team then sends the plates through an X-ray to look for cracks and puts each one through a stress test. 2 million plates and counting.
It costs us about $16 each to fix. We've saved the Army huge amounts of money.
In another warehouse, workers sort through clothing, then create a kit for individual soldiers based on their size and needs.
We pick the items for each soldier, we pack them in the boxes, and then we put them on a UPS truck and we ship them out of here. We do this better than anybody in the world. It's the largest scale operation of anybody in the world that does this kind of a job.
But with the war in Afghanistan finally coming to a close, more equipment is coming in than ever before. The question now is what to do with these former war machines. For that, the military is getting creative. This trailer is a water purification system. It could soon be deployed to natural disaster sites. Humvees and MRAPs are being stripped of their heavy armor and repurposed for civilian use. And the list goes on. What can't be scrapped or salvaged is sold to the highest bidder, often allied militaries, sometimes local law enforcement.
It's all about that, trying to wring some value out of something that may previously have not had value, specifically the returned items.
Anything to save the military a few bucks now that the war drums have finally stopped beating. Reporting in Herlong, California, Megan Lopez, RT.